Welcome back to the Tuesday Tea Podcast. I'm your host, Dominica, and today I am so excited to have the lovely Monica Menard with me. Monica is a personal trainer with over 20 years of experience helping women build strength, resilience, and confidence through fitness. Her approach is deeply rooted in both professional expertise and personal experience. Having navigated ongoing physical pain herself, she understands how movement can serve as medicine. She specializes in prenatal and postpartum training, using evidence-based methods to support women through every stage of life. And I can speak to this because I was her client. And Monica also focuses on building tissue health, structural integrity, and long-term strength, helping women create bodies that not only look strong, but function powerfully for years to come. So Monica, welcome. I'm so happy
Wow,
you're here.
wow, what an intro. Thank you for having me, Dominica. I'm really excited to have this talk today and hopefully share some wisdom.
Absolutely. For those that have been following along with the podcast so far this season, then you know that this whole season is geared towards governance. Governance of many things, governance with AI, governance with our personal health and our bodies. And so I thought it was so fitting to have Monica to come on to the show and really share. Of course, we'll touch on the governance component piece, right? We'll get to that, don't worry, but really share more about coming from just the personal experience of having experienced pain and then moving into this passion of helping others. And so, Monica, to kick this off, I would love to just have you share with the listeners more about your personal story and your perspective, because you've been in the fitness world for over 2 decades, but you've also experienced physical pain yourself. So, how did that shape the way that you approach training and supporting others?
Wow, great question. I think what initially drew me to fitness is that I've always been an active person, go, go, go. And so sports, being strong, using my body it started out with just a natural interest.
Hmm.
But funny story, I think when I was in high school, I decided that I needed to be active regularly. So that meant joining a gym. And my first gym was 24-hour fitness that I signed up and I got a membership. And all gyms have these packages, right? And the package I chose was kind of a go big or go home. And I laid out all of my money in savings for what they called a lifetime membership. And I was very intimidated by that term, but I also knew if something is free, I'm going to take advantage of it. If I'm invested, I'm probably going to give it a couple glances and make sure there's some time for it in my life. So I wiped out my savings account, bought this lifetime membership, still have it to this day. My first personal training job was at 24-hour fitness. They trained me with their program. And then fast forward years later, the pain piece came in because I was involved in just so many car accidents. None of them my fault. I'm a very good driver. Um, People just, they kept rear-ending me or whatever. And I learned that some of the advice I was given around those injuries, and none of it was ever anything major, but it was debilitating in the fact that I was in pretty chronic pain. And when I'm hanging out with friends and comparing how other people's lives are going, and I'm having a baby, a lot of what I'm doing, it just felt so defeating. But I had this membership and I had this interest. And it became clear to me that inactivity was going to make things worse because I tried the resting. Oh, this happened. And the doctor's advice was take it easy, right? Ice, don't do a lot of these things that you've been doing, which I did. And it's always good advice. It's helpful to speak to your doctors. But when do I jump in again? And what is the next steps for me to mitigate some of these pains that I was having? And fitness really became the answer. Moving, getting strong, being flexible, having mobility, getting blood flowing
Hmm.
into the tissues and flushing out the toxins made me feel better. The trick was navigating that as my life changed. And so fast forward to being a mom and being pregnant. I had my certification and training. I had been working out a lot, reading things, listening to things, being in the fitness world and just talking to other trainers and people who have done it longer than me and gleaning wisdom from them.
Mm.
But then I became a mom and my body started changing and doing things that were unpredictable. And again, sometimes causing pain. So I was kind of faced with that pain again. But my traditional training measures were falling short.
Mm.
For example, there was a lot of what not to do. And so there was this problem for me. Well, what do I do? What can I do to stay strong and deal with these pains in a safe way for me and my baby?
Mm.
So then later I got a specialty certification from Pronatal in New York in prenatal and postpartum. I trust them so much because they have done research from physical therapists, from pelvic floor therapists, from
Mm.
physiatrists, from gynecologists, very familiar with ACOG, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. So they know the medical accommodations needed and why they are there, but they also know what to add to overcome the obstacles and add specifically what people need. And so that was the key for me. And then in raising my girls and having that background and the passion and the knowledge and realizing I don't want other moms to struggle in this way either, it just lit a fire. And I want to share this with people. And I'm not in this to make a ton of money. I didn't start this to be rich. I didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, I want to start a fitness business. It really just evolved. And I think my passions, my willingness, my drive to be a teacher, to be a coach, to educate, to be strong has really motivated me and gotten me to where I am now.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that piece about 24-hour fitness, the lifetime membership. That's a fun Monica fact. I would have never
They
known.
are losing money on me today because they do not have that membership anymore. Or you pay like once and then
Wow.
you're done.
That's incredible.
It's funny.
Wow. It's interesting hearing you talk about, of course, obviously being a mother. Both you and I have children, and you were so kind. You drove really far to come see me after I had my first daughter. And I was in a world of pain, also because I had had car accidents, never fully dealt with the pain from that. Then I got pregnant, had my first daughter. And I remember you just looking at me and having so much compassion because
Hmm.
I was in this state where it felt like chronic pain and fight or flight and trying to figure out just like how to be a mom. Even something so simple you were teaching me of like, okay, what hip do you hold your daughter on? And like, you've got to start looking at that. Every movement matters. And you really, to this day, now that I've had my second, and I know I've moved away since, but I think about you and just even though it sounds kind of basic, like, of course, think about yourself and your body and how you're moving from day to day. And you really put a different light on how I interact with my children and make sure that I'm also taking care of my body at the same time in just really basic movements. So thank you for that.
Wow,
Yeah.
wonderful. That's great feedback. You are so welcome. And that describes perfectly, I think, where I'm at, how I approach my clients. It's a struggle. It's hard to navigate, who you are in your own personhood when you're having pain, when you're not sure if what you're doing is safe. Is it helping? Is it hurting?
And at the same time, you have this really great coaching ability to be like, come on, like make it happen. And compassionate when you're like, okay, we won't push here, but we can push there. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that this is just such a beautiful role that you've stepped into because you're very good at it. And I can
Oh,
speak to that firsthand. So
that's sweet. Thank you.
well, let me ask you this. Let's talk about like myth busting for a second regarding redefining fitness. Okay. So
Yeah. Mhm.
what do you think most women are getting wrong about fitness right now, especially when it comes to chasing the aesthetics, right? Versus building true strength and function?
Hmm. I think there's the tendency for women to follow what is popular because it can be quite convincing. And while what is popular can be anchored in true facts, in science based study, it can also not be. And so that's where being influenced by external factors and comparing where you're at, and then from there formulating your own goals can just be such a trap.
Mm,
And I think a lot of the women I work with come to me because they feel like they're broken and they need fixing. And while in some regards that may be true, they may have an ab separation, right? That's kind of brokenness that needs repairing. I think what I'm referring to more is just a lacking of myself because I want that aesthetic.
mm,
I want a goal that has been presented before me from magazines, from movies, from all these external things, as I mentioned before, that really doesn't fit the mold for myself and who I am or what I could be.
mm,
And so we need to fix this comparison issue, I think. And maybe this is a great time to talk about self governance. And that is if you find someone who can help you work through your struggles and define them so they're out and in the open and you can accept what they truly are, then you can actually work on them. And that's when your plan becomes specific to you, it's intrinsic,
mhm.
and you can really take ownership. And I think when you can take ownership and also see the achievements there, that is total autonomy, that is total independence, that is total freedom. And that is so motivating.
Yeah. I know I keep talking a lot about myself just because that was my experience with you, but one other thing that I thought was so huge. I remember we talked about weight and how I really wanted to lose weight like quickly. It's like I don't feel good in my body. This is especially after having a baby. And
Right.
I've always struggled with my weight. I still do to this day. My weight fluctuates all the time. It's just that's just what I have to deal with in this life. And I know that. And today, now that I'm older and I've had my children, like I understand what I need to do now. But at the time, felt almost like a crisis. And I was talking to you and you told me, forget about the scale. I want you to just feel good in your body. And what does that look like? And so I did. I put away the scale and we just focused on how do I actually feel day to day. And let's start with that. And then we can work on other things, right? And
Right.
that narrative of we have to look a certain way, to be accepted by society, especially as women. It's like, well, I just had a baby, got to lose the extra weight or whatever. It's like it's actually a really sweet time just to, I don't know, be in postpartum and accept that your body has changed into this whole new world and what a beautiful thing that just happened.
Yeah.
Right? Like your
Yeah.
body just did that.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Yes.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. You kind of touched on something interesting too, and that is just this bounce back culture. I think
Mm,
culture, you know, I think there's still a lot of pressure on women to bounce back, to be what they were before. This can absolutely be true. It can absolutely happen. It's just unfortunate that the education around how to do that is very much lacking. And that's why I have a job.
right. Right. Well, thank the good Lord for you. Uh, yeah, I wonder if there was a way to change the narrative from bounce back. It's more like bounce forward. Like it's forward momentum, right?
Yeah, yeah, redefine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have this transition period where you've had the baby, you're trying to figure out kind of now what, emotionally, physically, mentally.
Hmm.
You have to be okay with that. And I think that's another piece that is difficult, even for myself, is just mentally accepting that sometimes you're in a place that is a little bit unclear, it's uncharted, it's unfamiliar,
Hmm.
and you just kind of have to sit in it for a little while to figure out what's happening and how you feel about it.
Right.
And I hope that I can be in that place for my clients. I can be there with them to help them sort through some of that
Mm-hmm.
and take the pressure off. There is no bounce back. There's a transition between this kind of interesting new time of just having a baby and then my what I was doing before having children.
Yeah.
And that transition time can actually be programmed, it can be structured, there can be goals there, but that's where the information doesn't really get circulated much.
I appreciate that you keep using the word defined because that is in fact your business name, Defined Fitness. Yes. And it's very fitting. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's say for the women listening today, it's a lot of business professionals. And let's say they're considering starting a family or having another child. Is there some helpful tools that you potentially would work with women ahead of time to set them up for success for postpartum? Is there like a rhythm there? Or do you only particularly work with women postpartum itself?
Great question. There are absolutely specific things we can do before having children. Even if a woman is not sure that she's going to have children, everybody needs good core function. Everybody needs a solid foundation to their body and how they move and having good movement patterns to not only feel good, but avoid the aches and pains that potentially could come from, not moving well.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically to your question about I'm a woman and I want to be pregnant someday, what can I do to kind of prime the body for that event? My answer to that is yes, there are things. It would be knowing that core function and strength is huge because that's the biggest piece that will shift for a mom who's growing a baby and her belly is getting larger. And so having really good core function and core strength is probably key. And that would be programmed into really any woman that works with me, whether she wants to be pregnant or not, or isn't sure. I'm just going to give that. You're just going to get that in the programs because it's beneficial to everyone, men also, right? Men have a core. On my website, on my Instagram, but I can mention it also here, there's a move that really everybody needs to know about to prepare their body for pregnancy, to prepare their body for maybe you want to lift weights, maybe you've never exercised. So it all goes down to this developing and layering a good foundation. It's 360-degree breathing is the exercise. It's actually very therapeutic, but your core needs to function well before you put load upon it. And to function well, you've got to have good breathing mechanics, which is involving key musculature that needs to be activated as opposed to surrounding tissues being involved in your breathing mechanics that really don't need to be, that are taking the focus away from good core function. So 360-degree breathing is really just a fancy name for diaphragmatic breathing. And you need to practice. We all need to practice breathing properly. And that is a really good foundational element. It's easy to throw in your day. I'm a huge fan of habit coupling, where you take something you do, in case we don't know what that is, but you take something you do typically every day, and it reminds you every time I brush my teeth, I'm going to do some 360 breathing. For women, especially, men have a pelvic floor, and so they could benefit from 360 breathing also. But I like tying in 360 breathing when you use the restroom. You're in a seated position, you can easily put your hands around your ribs and do some breathing there. And you can tie in some pelvic floor contractions or activations. I mean, how many times do we go to the bathroom during a day? That's so easy to just, oh, I should do a couple little reps here and get it in. And so it's not overwhelming, it's doable, and you're feeding your body the things that it needs for that good foundation.
I will be sure to link that exact video from your Instagram in the show notes so people can click it and just go for it.
Awesome.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about playing the long game in fitness
Yeah,
before. And what does that really mean in practice? And how should women or men be thinking about their bodies, not just now, but when they're 60, 70, and beyond?
right. playing the long game, I think, has two components: being consistent and incorporating functional fitness.
Mm.
So, being consistent is pretty obvious. Do your habit coupling to be consistent. Set your alarm on your phone to be consistent. Get a buddy, join a fitness class, hire a trainer, schedule yourself in. I know if I don't put certain things on my calendar, it gets filled up with other things and it doesn't happen. So, consistency. And the other thing would be functional. It's a little more complicated, but when we exercise, let's say we go to YouTube and we do some exercise videos, we're going to learn basic things like squats and lunges and all of that. Those are functional things because our bodies are put in those positions and we're doing those moves daily without knowing them. And so prioritizing knowing how to do those moves, doing them really well, and then when you work out, doing them with load will give you function for a long time. So like one of my personal goals is I hope to be a grandma someday and I want my body to function. I want to catch up with grandkids and pick them up and run after them and not have pain or just be able to. I want to sit on the floor with them and get up successfully. You know, I don't want to worry about falling. And so all of that starts in the gym, being strong, being functional, moving joints and muscles through their full range of motion. And I have a confession. I'm probably one of the worst with the functional pieces of my personal training because when I train myself is what I mean. It's boring. It's the functional stuff can be very boring. It's,
So what do
women,
we do then? How do we make
yeah,
it fun?
yeah. What do we do to make it fun? Um,
Music, maybe, right? Motivation.
yeah, I'm totally motivated by music. Definitely get a pump up jam going.
Yeah.
Um, I like to mix up the space that I work out in.
Oh, speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so the gym that I go to, I'll just start with the gym itself. It's got a quite a few different outlets, little wings of the building. And so as opposed to just going in and doing this cookie cutter, I go over here and I do my cardio, or I go over here and do the weights. I'll grab some free weights. I'll go out on their patio section and get some fresh air and say, what can I do out here that is exercising my brain? Because now I have to think a little differently. I'm outside the box, which is excellent, wonderful brain fitness for longevity.
Yeah.
And just having the change of scenery can be quite motivating for me, and it does make it a little more fun. And then I think getting started is always difficult, and making the time for it is difficult because I want to squat when I go to the gym. I want to show myself how strong I can be. That's more fun for me. But when I get started in the more functional things like lifting a 3-pound weight to work my rotator cuffs,
Mm-hmm.
because we can get shoulder pain as we age, women, especially with perimenopause, suddenly we get this frozen shoulder thing. And, I'm training proactively. Maybe that also has to do with the longevity piece that you asked me. So consistent, functional, and being proactive. Yeah. So I think changing up my environment and getting motivated by the fact that if I can just get started in some of those silly things like lifting the 3-pound weight, I feel so good afterwards because I know I filled my cup, so to speak. I laid out the foundation again. I prepped myself for the demands that I'm expecting my body
Mm.
to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think going back to your question about just how do we make the boring stuff fun? I mean, I like to change up my space. Music is great. Music I wouldn't listen to with my kids. Sorry, girls.
That's okay. Same, actually. Isn't that
Another little
interesting?
another little confession there.
That's just for mama, you
Yeah,
know?
right. And then I think getting the benefits from feeling so good afterwards. Okay, now that I've done the boring stuff, I know did the foundation. Now I can expect my body to perform for me, and hopefully I won't get injured. I won't have to worry about that because
Mhm.
I primed it properly. And I think that can be really not boring, motivating. Motivation, I think, is not boring.
Do you think there's a benefit between working out at a specific time of day, like morning versus evening, midday? What's your take on that?
The articles and studies that I've read don't particularly show a time of day as being most efficient for any particular person, male, female, ages. From what I remember, I would say it's more of a personal thing. If you feel like you have more energy and working out in the morning is more doable for you, then I would go with that. If evening works out best, maybe it gives you something to look forward to because you're saying, I'm going to invest in myself and get through all this stuff throughout the day. And then I'm going to give myself something that feels good. Then I would say do it in the evening. Something that's controversial about workout timing too is fasted or non-fasted. That's kind of a discussion too. Yeah. About if I train in the morning, then am I eating breakfast before? What's again, the studies don't show that fasting or not fasting are more beneficial, but I think again you need to go with what works best for you. If you need a little bit of food because you've been fasting all night to get through a workout, you can produce more output, then I would eat. I would have something to eat.
A bit of a trap that I have caught myself in is being just epically exhausted at the end of the day
Mm.
between work, kids, and then I realize my body. I'm like, oh, I'm really sore, and I know that's my trigger to like, I need to go move. Even if I'm gonna go like walk a couple miles on the treadmill, couple of just basic things, the boring but basic things, just to move, stretch my body. I know I'll feel better. But so often I'm like, I just need to sit on the couch for an hour. And then I fall asleep. And then I feel like trash the next day. It's like I didn't move my body. Do you
Yeah.
have any motivation reminders? Should we be setting alarms on our phones at certain times of day when we think we could get 45 minutes in or something? What do you say to the lazy folks like myself when we get caught in that trap?
Exhaustion is a real thing, man. I'll tell you, I get into it myself too. One thing I would say is give yourself grace. If you're really feeling like you need to rest, then rest. If you haven't moved all week, you haven't moved all day, and it is just time to move, then yeah, I would schedule it. I would say Monday, Wednesday, Friday. These are my gym days. And then be strategic about it. On those days, maybe you need to schedule other things a little on the light side. Leave some energy in the tank for yourself. And don't wait. Don't wait till the end of the day. If you know you're completely exhausted and you're on fumes at the end of the day, see if there's a way to do it earlier in the day for you or those of us who are struggling with the exhaustion at the end of the day. I would say some other fun things clients have really had success with is a buddy,
Mm-hmm.
just having someone else that they can meet up with and having that accountability. Again, like maybe joining a workout class, going to a gym where there's a class that is hosted, and just get your butt in there.
Just go.
Just go, just do it. And I think maybe really wrapping yourself around the philosophy of 80-20. If I'm working out, I'm doing well, I'm being consistent 80% of the time, then I'm doing all right. So that might be like the grace piece. But yeah, suck it up. Being tired isn't going to kill you. Even if you're tired, you can still move. Don't lay down on the couch.
Yes, Coach Monica.
Yeah, the couch is your enemy. My gosh, at the end of the day, it's signaling your body to shut down.
Well, let's touch back on the governance of self here. If we think about this world that's just full of conflicting information about health, advice, fitness, body image, I know you touched on it a little bit earlier in the episode, but what does it look like for a woman to truly take ownership and govern her own body and mind?
It's a great question. I think again, it goes back to discovering what is important to you. And those, let's just call them laws, are what you abide by and nothing else. And so if I say to myself, so these are some of my laws, I know that when I eat well, I feel well. So I make good choices with my food.
Mm.
I know what's important to me is to be strong. And part of that is being functional being able to move, even if I have a little pain, having the ability, and ability leads to confidence.
Hmm.
And if I can do all of that, then I'm being true to myself. I'm not being motivated or influenced by other things.
Hmm.
I think AI and Chat GPT and those things, and I call it Dr. Google when you do a Google search. I think they're great tools. I think you just got to check in with yourself. Am I depending on them?
Hmm.
You know, going back to my company's name, are they defining you?
Hmm.
And then am I living by that? Am I comparing what I'm doing, what I'm saying, what I'm feeling to those external things? Or do I really know what my boundaries, what my limits, what my desires are? If a client is open to it, I love talking about this kind of stuff with them too, because fitness is about health, right? And health is about mental, emotional, and physical. And you can't really separate those things out. So if I'm coming in and I'm having you exercise, but mentally you're not really, a person is not really in the right headspace, that could be problematic.
Totally.
And I would be doing them a disservice to looking past those other aspects of their health. Again, if they're open to it, if they're open to having the discussions and digging a little deeper, I love that. There is this fad about another trend, another pressure on us women about make sure when you exercise, you're taking into consideration your hormonal cycle and make sure you're eating these seeds and these nuts and on these days and then, hitting your cardio hard on these days. And I'm not going to refute that there are absolutely hormonal fluctuations throughout the month that make women totally able to flip a truck if they wanted to. Testosterone is high. And if you're just got the energy, you want to go to the gym and you want to flip trucks. And that's great. And that's fine. So I think it really is a matter of, again, not listening so much to the trend and doing what it says, but just knowing that, yeah, I'm affected by my cycle because physiologically there are levels of hormones that change and allow me to be a better athlete at certain times of the cycle than others. And so when I feel those times come on, then I am going to let it all out at the gym and I'm going to run and I'm going to lift and I'm going to work out hard because it feels good too. On the other hand, when we don't have the energy, I think we need to honor that too and say, I'm going to walk. I'm going to go for an hour walk and just do some steady state, more therapy to my body so that I can flip the truck later. And so as far as that trend or fad goes, that would be my response to it. Just keep it simple.
That's so good. That's such a great nugget of wisdom right there. Cause yeah, I want to flip trucks most days. So what does that say
Yeah.
about me?
Well, then you should probably have those goals of like, I'm going to go and do some heavy stuff. I mean, flipping the trucks because your stress is one thing, but I mean like ability.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I can push a lot of weight today. So I'm going to go up in weight.
Nice. Well, I know that Mother's Day is coming up for us here. Is there a specific offering that you have for our listeners?
I do have a promotion for Mother's Day May. If they just head to my website, they can read all about the programs there. I have a deal going on prenatal programs. So whether you're pregnant now or you're wanting to be pregnant, that would be the selection for you. If you're postpartum, I've got some deals on training sessions there as well. And postpartum can be in the early phases, just had a baby, maybe a year or less. But once you have a baby, you're postpartum forever. So, if you've not had training or you're having some pelvic floor things going on, that's your body saying that maybe it needs a little attention. And so click that link on my website and read about the program more specifically, or they can write me an email. And then I also have a free guide on there about what to do and what not to do for each trimester in pregnancy. That was an important piece for me because we had mentioned earlier that a lot of times you're given what not to do in pregnancy, but it's important to know, well, what can you do?
Hmm.
So I love that guide for that reason. So go to my website and check out the promos there. Those are the three offerings I have right now.
Fantastic. All right, friends, if you're interested in working with Monica, I'll be sure to have all of the links to her website as well as her Instagram where you can interact with her and check out all of her awesome videos. I'll put it all in the show notes. Monica, is there anything else you want the listeners to know before we sign off?
I hope this was inspiring. I hope I was able to just lay down some wisdom that resonated with your listeners, and they can reach out to me if they have questions. I am writing articles for the local magazine here called Growing Up in Santa Cruz. So there's just free information on women's health they can find there as well. And just thank you so much for allowing me this time, for giving me this platform.
Oh my God.
Love our talk today. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, of course. It was so nice to have you on. And yes, I'm so glad you mentioned for everyone listening, you know, I love a resource. I'm like queen of the resources. So I love that you started writing. And yes, one other piece I wanted to touch on here. So Monica is located in the Santa Cruz County area, but will you work with individuals all over? Can you do virtual or are you just doing
Yes.
in-person
Oh,
sessions?
I'm
Okay,
glad you asked. Yes. I've had some virtual clients. I'm totally set up to do that.
perfect.
I am willing to drive a little distance. It's always worth the time.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on for sharing your wisdom and your insight on all of this because we are living in just a wild time. So, to have someone with such clarity as yourself to be able to speak to these invaluable aspects of being just a human, really, at the end of the day, but specifically a woman, especially a postpartum mama, is just, it's massively helpful. So, thank you for taking the time.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everyone. That's it for this week. I'll see you next time. Bye.